Hello everyone, here is Afra Siab. Today we are going to solve Cambridge IGCSE Physics Paper 2 Multiple Choice Extended held on May-June 2019 and paper code is 0625 with variant 22. So let's start from question number 1. Question number 1. Which quantity can be measured directly using a micrometer screw gauge? Here is a device, micrometer screw gauge. Which quantity can be measured by using the micrometer screw gauge? Option A, area of the sheet of paper. B, mass of the sheet of paper. C, thickness of the sheet of paper. D, volume of the sheet of paper. So micrometer screw gauge basically used to measure the thickness of the sheet of paper. Option C is correct. Question number 2. Four objects are moving along a straight line. The distance of an object from the fixed point on a line is plotted against the time for each object. Which object is decelerating? Four graphs are shown here, A, B, C and D. We have to guess that for which object the velocity is decreasing. The object is slows down. In the graph A, we can see here that it is moving with the uniform velocity. It means that the body covers equal distance in equal interval of time. When I increase the time, then distance also increase. So it will be a straight line. Graph B shows that it is accelerating. The velocity of the object is increasing with the passage of time. So graph C is basically the graph which shows that the object slows down. It means that it is decelerating. So option C is correct. Question number 3. A heavy metal ball falls vertically downwards through the air past four equally spaced levels J, K, L and M. There are levels shown, level M, L, K and J, and there is also the metal ball that falls vertically downward. The time taken to fall from one level to the next are measured, where the speed of the ball is greatest and which time is shortest. First of all, we can see here the metal ball is fall vertically downward. When it comes towards the level M, then the velocity goes on increases. Between L and M, it has the greatest speed. When the speed is greater, it means that the ball covers greater distance in small interval of time. So from level L to M, the time is shortest, but the speed is greater. So from here, speed is greater between and time is shortest between. There are different levels shown. From here, option D is correct, which shows that speed is greatest between level L and M, and also the time is shortest between the level L and M. So D is correct. Question number 4. Four students make statement about the mass of an object. Which statement is correct? A. The mass of an object depends on the gravitational field which acts on the object. B. The mass of an object divided by its weight is equal to acceleration with which it falls freely. So basically, here says that mass over weight is equal to acceleration, which is D. It is not correct because weight is equal to product of mass and G. So from here G is equal to W over M. Weight over mass, not mass over weight. So B is incorrect. C. The mass of an object increases when the temperature of the object increases. So this is also incorrect. D. Mass of an object resists change in motion of the object. This statement is correct. Option D. Question number 5. A metal has a density of 8.0 gram per centimeter cube. A solid cube of mass 1.0 kilogram is made from this metal. How long is each side of the cube? Basically here we have find out the length of each side of a cube. Density and mass is given. We use the formula of density. Density is equal to mass over volume. First of all we find out the volume and then by the value of volume we find out the length. So V is equal to mass over density. Mass is given 1.0 kilogram and density is 8.0 gram per cubic centimeter. Here the unit of mass is change. We may convert 1.0 kilogram into gram or 8.0 gram per cubic centimeter kilogram per cubic centimeter. So I just change 1.0 kilogram into gram. It will be equal to 1000 gram. So I write here 1000 divided by density 8.0. So volume will be equal to 125 centimeter cube. We know that all sides of the cube are of equal length. So volume of the cube is basically equal to L cube. It is equal to 125. Now I take 1/3 power on both sides. It will be equal to these 3 cancels. So from here length will be equal to 5 centimeter. Option C is correct. Question number 6. An experiment is done to determine the spring constant for a spring. Different loads are hung from the spring and its length is measured for each load. The graph shows how its length varied with the load. Here is a graph of the weight and length of the spring. What is the value of the spring constant? Here we have to find out the value of spring constant. I use here Hooke's law. F is equal to Kx. K is the spring constant. F is the weight of the load and X is length of the spring. So from here K is equal to F over X. I take any 2 points on this curve and then find out the slope in order to get the value of spring constant. So first of all I take this point and this point and join this point with the x-axis and y-axis to find out the respective values of the weight and length. I use a ruler. We can see here at this point length is 20 centimeter and weight is 4.0. So I make point 4.0 and 20. At the other point length is 12 centimeter and weight is 2.0. So 2.0 and 12. Now I am going to find out the slope. F is 4.0 minus 2.0 divided by 20 minus 12. K is equal to 2.0 divided by 8.0. So the value of K will be equal to 0.25 and the unit should be Newton per centimeter. So from here option B is correct. Question number 7. A beam is pivoted at its center of mass. It is acted upon by two forces, 10 Newton and 5.0 Newton as shown. What is the resultant momentum about the pivot? Here we have to find out the resultant momentum. Resultant momentum will be the net of total clockwise movement and anti-clockwise movement. Here we can see 10 Newton force is acting upward and 5.0 Newton force is also acting upward. But 10 Newton is greater than 5.0 Newton, due to which the 10 Newton force causes clockwise movement while the 5.0 Newton causes the anti-clockwise movement. So 10 Newton force basically causes clockwise movement like this. Now I write here net moment will be equal to minus anti-clockwise movement. Because the clockwise movement and anti-clockwise movement are in opposite direction, that's why I write here minus. So clockwise movement is 10, which is force multiplied by the perpendicular distance from the pivot, which in this case will be 10, because the total distance between these two forces is 25 centimeter and the distance of 5.0 Newton force from the pivot point is 15 centimeter. So the other distance will be 25 minus 15, which is equal to 10 centimeter. So this distance, that is the perpendicular distance of force 10 Newton, is basically equal to 10 centimeter. So here will be 10, it is equal to 100 Newton and centimeter, because here unit is centimeter. The anti-clockwise movement will be equal to 5.0 multiplied by 15, which is the perpendicular distance. It will be equal to 75 Newton centimeter. So the net moment will be equal to 100 minus 75, which is 25 Newton centimeter. We have find out the magnitude of the net moment, but we also have to find out direction. As the clockwise moment is greater than the anti-clockwise moment, so the net moment direction will be clockwise. Now we see the options. Option A, 25 Newton centimeter anti-clockwise. Here direction is anti-clockwise, so this is incorrect. B, 25 Newton centimeter clockwise, so B is correct. Question number 8. Which object is in equilibrium? 4 objects are shown, A, B, C and D. Which one of the following object is in equilibrium? For the equilibrium we have two conditions, that net forces acting on the body must be equal to 0, that is the sum of force must be equal to 0, and also the net moment acting on the body must be equal to 0. So net moment, sum of all the moment will be equal to 0. Now we see the option A. Here 2 Newton forces acting horizontally and 2 Newton forces acting vertically. So basically Fx is equal to 2 and Fy is also equal to 2. When we find out the resultant force, it will be equal to Fx square plus Fy square. 2 square plus 2 square. It is equal to square root 8. Here force is not equal to 0. So this option is incorrect. We see the option B. 2 Newton force is acting vertically downward and 2 Newton force is acting vertically upward. When I find out the total net force here, it will be equal to 0 because net force will be 2 Newton minus 2 Newton. Both of these forces are acting in opposite direction. So it will be equal to 0. But in this case, the net movement will not be equal to 0, due to which the body is not in equilibrium. So option B is also incorrect. Now we see the option C. Here again the net force will be 2 minus 2 because both of these forces are acting horizontally in opposite direction. So it will be equal to 0. When we find out the net movement, it will be equal to 0 because the forces are acting at the same point along the same line. So the net movement will be equal to 0. The body in option C is in equilibrium. We also check option D. Here the 2 Newton force acting vertically downward and 2 Newton force is acting horizontally. So here Fx is equal to 2 Newton and Fy is also equal to 2 Newton. So the resultant force will be same as that of the option A, which is equal to square root A. It is not equal to 0. So this option is also incorrect. Question number 9. An object of mass 4.0 kg is moving with a velocity of 3.0 meter per second in a straight line. What is the momentum of the object? Here we have to find out the momentum. Momentum is equal to mass multiplied by velocity. Mass is given 4.0 multiplied by velocity is 3.0. So it will be equal to 12. Unit is kilogram meter over second. So from here option C is correct. Question number 10. A machine is very efficient. What does this mean? Option A. It produces a large amount of power. B. It uses very little energy. C. It wastes very little energy. D. It works very quickly. The machine is efficient. It means that output is equal to input. There is very small wastage of energy. So from here option C is correct. Question number 11. A force F acts on a body and Question number 11. A force F acts on a body and the body moves a distance d in the direction of force. Which expression for the work done W is correct? So work W, it is basically the product of force and distance. So option A is correct. B is not correct because here is the distance square. C is also incorrect because of the factor 1 by 2 and D is also incorrect because of the factor 1 over 2 and the square of distance. So only option A is correct. Question number 12. A boy produces an average output power of 60 watt as he rides his bicycle for 2.0 minutes. How much useful energy does he expend? So here we have to find out the useful energy. We know that power is the rate of transfer of energy. So power is equal to energy over time. And energy is equal to power multiplied by time. Power is given which is 60 watt. 60 multiplied by time is 2.0 minute. And we have to convert this minute into second. So it will be equal to 2.0 multiply by 60 seconds, so that the value of energy will be equal to 7200 joule. From here option D is correct. Question number 13. The diagram shows a stone suspended on a string under the surface of a liquid. The stone experiences a pressure caused by the liquid. Here is a stone that is inside the liquid and it is suspended by the string. What would increase the pressure of the stone? Here we have to increase the pressure on the stone. How we can increase this? Option A, decreasing the surface area of the stone. B, increasing the mass of the stone. C, lowering the stone deeper into the liquid. D, using a liquid with a lower density. So first of all, when I lower this stone deep into the liquid, I suppose its position is this one. This is the string that is attached with this. When I lower the stone deeper into the liquid, then the height increases, and we know that pressure of liquid is equal to rho gh. Rho is density, g is acceleration due to gravity, and h is height. When the height increases, then the pressure also increases. It means that we have to lower the stone deeper into the liquid so that the pressure caused by the liquid increases. So option C is correct. Question number 14. At room temperature, iron is difficult to compress. At the same temperature, oxygen is much easier to compress. Which comparison of the structure of iron and oxygen explain this? Option A, the iron particles are closer together. B, the iron particles have a greater mass. C, iron particles can be magnetized. D, the iron particles have less average kinetic energy. First of all, I have two systems. In one, there is iron particle. In the second, there is oxygen. Oxygen is basically a gas. There is a large distance between their molecules, or the spacing between the molecules of gas is larger. But iron, the molecules are very closer to each other. There is no spacing, even a small spacing between the molecules of the iron. So, as the iron particles are closer to each other, it is more difficult to compress iron as compared to gas, because here oxygen particles are further apart from each other. There is a spacing between their molecules due to which we can easily compress the oxygen, but not iron. So from here option A is correct. The iron particles are closer together, due to which it is difficult to compress iron, but it is easier to compress the oxygen at the same temperature. Question number 15. A night storage heater contains a large block of material that is heated electrically during the night. During the day, the block cools down, releasing thermal energy into the room. Which thermal energy and which night time temperature increase will cause the most energy to be stored by the block? First of all, the temperature of the night should be larger to heat the block strongly, and also the specific heat capacity of the block should be larger, because the specific heat capacity will make the capacity of containing heat of the block high. So the thermal capacity of the block and night temperature increase. Both of these should be larger. Only the option A is correct. Question number 16. 100 gram of water at 25 degrees C is poured into an insulating cup. 50 gram of ice at 0 degrees C is added to the water. The water is stirred until the temperature of the water has fallen to 0 degrees C. 18 gram of ice remains unmelted. The specific heat capacity of water is 4.2 joule per gram per degree C. Which value does this experiment give for the specific latent heat of fusion of ice? So here we have to find out the value for the specific latent heat of fusion of ice. Here the temperature of the water has decreased from 25 degrees C to 0 degrees C. It means that heat is lost by the water. All of this heat is actually gained by the ice. So the ice melt. It means that the specific latent heat of fusion of ice will be equal to heat lost by the water. So I write here energy for the specific heat of fusion of ice will be equal to heat or energy lost by water. Now I write here formula M, as this energy is equal to M and L. So I write here mass of steam and L of steam, that is the specific latent heat of fusion. It will be equal to specific heat capacity for the water, mass of water, and also the change in temperature. So basically here we have to find out the specific heat of fusion of ice. So I write here mass multiplied by latent heat of fusion of ice. It will be equal to the C, that is the specific heat capacity of water is 4.2 multiply mass. Mass is 100. So the change in temperature is from 25 degrees C to 0. It will be 25 minus 0. Mass is 50 minus 18, because the 18 gram of ice remains unmelted. So it will be equal to 4.2 multiplied by 125. So that the value of L will be equal to 328.125 joule per gram, and it is also equal to 330 joule per kilogram. From here option B is correct. This is the value of the specific latent heat of fusion of ice. Question number 17. The handle of a metal saucepan is made of plastic. As the saucepan heats up, the handle gets warmer. Which statement explains this? Option A. The molecules of the plastic radiate their energy to the other molecules. B. Molecules of the plastic vibrate more and pass on their energy to the nearby molecules. C. The free electrons in the plastic transfer the thermal energy along the handle. D. The heated molecules very slowly move along the plastic handle. So first of all, we know that plastic is an insulator. There is no free electrons inside the plastic. But when it is heated to large extent, the conduction takes place, which is due to the production of vibrations in its molecule, which enables the heat transfer. So basically there is vibration, then the energy transfer from molecules to molecules. Option B is correct. Question number 18. The metal surface of a kettle is hot. What happens to the cool air outside the kettle when it comes into contact with the hot kettle? First of all, here is a kettle, and this kettle is very hot, and there is also the air, cold air outside this kettle. What happens to the cold air outside the kettle? When both of these come contact, so first of all, the heat transfer from inside of this kettle into outside, due to which there is the change in temperature. When the temperature change, then the density also change. So here the density of the air decreases, and when the density of air decrease, it rise up. So from here, the density of the air decrease and the air rise up. Option A, the density of the air decrease and the air falls. So this is incorrect because here the air falls. The density of the air decrease and the air rises. The option B is correct. Question number 19. Vacuum flasks usually have silvered walls that help to keep the content of the flask hot. Why are the walls silvered? Option A, to absorb thermal energy from the air around the flask. B, to increase the rate of convection inside the flask. C, to reduce the energy lost to the surrounding by the conduction. D, to reflect thermal radiation back into the flask. As the temperature inside the flask is very high, so the walls are silvered to reflect the thermal radiation back into the flask. So the temperature remains same. It does not decrease. So option D is correct. Question number 20. When waterways pass through a gap, they diffract. The diagram shows the wavefronts approaching a narrow gap. In which diagram will the diffraction be least? So where there is the less diffraction? In the option A, we see here the wavefronts are shown. The distance between the wavefront is basically equal to wavelength, and this is the spacing between the barrier walls. Here the wavelength is larger as compared to the spacing. So when the wavelength is larger as compared to the separation, then there will be larger diffraction. I write here lambda is greater than D, more diffraction. And when wavelength is smaller as compared to separation, there will be less diffraction. In the diagram A, the wavelength is larger as compared to the spacing, so there will be more diffraction. In the B, we can see here the distance is this, which is wavelength, and D is this. Here again the lambda is greater than D, so there will be more diffraction. In diagram C, we can see here the wavelength is smaller as compared to the distance. So this condition is basically for the least diffraction. Here the diffraction should be less. In the D, we see here that wavelength is approximately equal to the distance. So there should be the diffraction, but it is less than largest diffraction. So only the option C is correct. Question number 21. Which conditions are necessary for the light to be totally internally reflected? The incident light is in angle of incidence. Option A, the less denser medium, less than the critical angle. B, the less dense medium, greater than the critical angle. C, the more dense medium, less than the critical angle. D, the more dense medium and greater than the critical angle. First of all, for the total internal reflection, the ray should be in the more denser medium, and the angle of incidence should be larger as compared to the critical angle. So only D option correct, which shows that the incident light is in more denser medium and also the angle of incidence is larger as compared to the critical angle for the total internal reflection. So option D is correct. Question number 22. Light is traveling through air. The light strikes a glass block at an angle of incidence of 45 degrees. The glass has a refractive index of 1.4. What is the angle of refraction of the light as it enters the glass? Basically here we have to find out the angle of refraction. Here I use the Snell's law. N1 sin theta 1 is equal to N2 sin theta 2. The left hand side data is basically for the air, while on the right hand side this is for glass. So here we have to find out the angle of refraction and the incident ray is in air. So I write here the refractive index of air is 1 and sin theta 1 is basically the angle of incidence, which is equal to 45 degree. And 2 is given the refractive index for the glass 1.4 multiplied by sin theta 2. This angle is basically the angle of refraction. So theta r will be equal to sin inverse of sin 45 degree divided by 1.4. So the value of angle of refraction will be equal to 30 degree. From here option B is correct. Question number 23. An eclipse of the sun happens when the moon comes between the earth and the sun. Which statement is correct? So which one of the following statement is correct here? Option A. Infrared radiation from the sun disappears before visible light and the ultraviolet radiation. B. Ultraviolet radiation from the sun disappears before visible light and infrared radiation. C. Visible light from the sun disappears before ultraviolet radiation and the infrared radiation. D. Infrared radiation, ultraviolet radiation and the visible light from the sun all disappears at the same moment. So option D is correct. All of these radiation disappears at the same moment. Question number 24. A pulse of sound is produced at the bottom of a boat. The sound travels through the water and it is reflected from the shoal of fish. The sound reaches the boat again after 1.2 seconds. The speed of the sound in the water is 1500 meter per second. How far below the bottom of the boat is the shoal of the fish? So basically here we have to find out this distance. Here I use the formula V is equal to 2D over T, where 2D is double of the distance. In the echo, first of all sound wave travels and come at this point, then it is again reflected and go back. So this distance will be double. Here we have to find out distance. So D will be equal to V cross T over 2. V is 1500, time is given 1.2 second divided by 2. So distance will be equal to 900 meter. From here option B is correct. Question number 25. An observer stands at the finish line of 100-meter race. He wants to the time the winners run. He starts his stopwatch as soon as he sees the smoke from the starting gun, instead of when he hears the bang. What is the reason for doing this? Option A. Light travels much faster than solid. B. There is a risk he might respond to an echo from the wall. C. Human react slower to the sound than to the light. D. The human react more quickly to the sound than to the light. So basically, the light is larger as compared to the speed of sound. So option A is correct, which shows that the light travels much faster than the sound. Question number 26. A soft iron bar is a long way from any magnetic field. How can the material of the bar be described? A. It is magnetic and strongly magnetized. B. It is magnetic and unmagnetized. C. It is non-magnetic and strongly magnetized. D. It is non-magnetic and unmagnetized. So first of all, here is iron bar. Iron bar is a magnetic material. So first of all, it is magnetic and either it is magnetized or demagnetized. It is given that the soft iron bar is a long way from the magnetic field. It is away from the magnetic field. It means that it is unmagnetized. So from here, option B is correct, that the soft iron bar is magnetic and unmagnetized. Question number 27. Diagram 1 shows two thin, uncharged strips of plastic. Diagram 2 shows the same strips after they have been rubbed with a dry cloth. Two figures are shown here. These are two strips of plastic and there is also the strip of plastic when these are rubbed with the dry cloth. Which row describes the charge on the strip after rubbing and the force between the strip after rubbing? We know that similar charges repel each other while the opposite charges attract each other, as the strips of the plastic are moving apart from each other. It means that there is a repulsion between them. So here the force will be repulsive, and repulsive force is always present between the similar charges. Now we see the options. Charge on the strip and force between the strip. Option A, opposite attraction. B, opposite repulsion. C, same attraction. D, the same and repulsion. So from here, option D is correct because the charges are same. So D option is correct. Question number 28. A cell has an electromotive force EMF of 1.5 volt. What does this statement mean? A. The cell converts 1.0 joule of energy when driving 1.5 coulomb of charge around a complete circuit. B. The cell converts 1.5 joule of energy when 1.0 coulomb of the charge round a complete circuit. C. The cell converts 1.5 joule of energy per second when driving 1.0 coulomb of charge around a complete circuit. D. The cell converts 1.5 watt of power when driving 1.0 of the charge around a complete circuit. So first of all, the formula of EMF is equal to energy over charge. EMF is 1.5 volt. It means that here will be 1.5 joule per coulomb, which shows that energy is 1.5 joule and charges are 1 coulomb. So from here, B option is correct, which shows that the cell converts 1.5 joule of the energy when driving 1.0 coulomb of the charge round a complete circuit. So B is correct. Question number 29. A metal wire of length 100 cm and cross-section area of 0.20 mm square has a resistance of 8.0 ohm. What is the resistance of the wire of the same metal of length 50 cm and cross-section area 0.40 mm square? So first of all, we have two wires. The data for the wire 1 I write here. Its length is 100 cm, area is 0.20 mm square, resistance is 8.0 ohm. For the second wire, length is 50 centimeter, area is 0.40 millimeter square, and we have to find out the resistance. It is also given that both of the wires are made from the same material. So the resistivity of both of these wires should be same. First of all, I find out the data for the wire 1 and find out the value of resistivity. Then by using this value of resistivity, I can find out the value of resistance. So I write here, resistance is equal to resistivity length over A. We have to find out resistivity. It will be equal to resistance area over length. Now I am going to put values for the wire 1. The resistivity will be equal to, resistance is 8.0 ohm multiplied by area 0.20 into, here will be millimeter square, and we have to convert millimeter square into meter square. So there will be 10 की power minus 6 divided by length, which is 100 centimeter, and we have to convert this length into meters. So there will be 10 की power minus 2. Then the resistivity will be equal to 0.016 multiplied by 10 की power minus 4, and the unit is ohm meter. I use this value of the resistivity to find out the resistance of the second wire. So I write here R is equal to rho L over A. Length is given, which is 50 centimeter, divided by area 0.40 into 10 की power minus 6. So the value of resistance will be equal to 2.0 ohm. So this is the value of the resistance for the second wire. From here, option A is correct. Question number 30. The diagram shows a circuit. What is connected in parallel with the thermistor? So here is the thermistor. What is connected parallel to the thermistor? We have to just tell its name. Here is heater, lamp, light dependent resistor or variable resistor. So this is basically the heater. So option A is correct. Question number 31. A lamp is to be connected in a circuit so that the potential difference across it can be varied from 0 to 6 volt. Which circuit would be most suitable? So there are 4 circuits. We can see here there is variable resistor and there is also the lamp that is attached across this. Here in the B, we can see here an arrow is shown. This is basically used to change the potential. This arrow can slide over the resistor so that the potential difference changes. Only the option B is correct. Because of this arrow, we can move this arrow and change the value of potential difference. Question number 32. Component X and Y can be inserted to complete the circuit below. The complete circuit is a potential divider in which the potential difference across the component Y increase when the temperature increase. Which row shows the component X and Y? So there are 2 components X and Y. We have to tell their name, and it is also given that across the Y component, when we increase the temperature, there should be the increase in potential difference. So first of all, options are given: light dependent resistor, thermistor and resistor. Light dependent resistor is used basically for the detection of light. It has nothing to do with the temperature. So the light dependent resistor would not be used in this circuit. So option A, that includes the light dependent resistor, and B, which also include the light dependent resistor, they both are incorrect. Now we see the other, the resistor and thermistor. Thermistor is basically a device whose resistance decreases with the increase in temperature for the semiconductor. I write here thermistor, its resistance decreases with the increase in temperature for the semiconductors. It means that they show negative temperature coefficient. So when the resistance of the thermistor decreases with the increase in temperature, so if the thermistor and the resistor are connected as a potential divider, the potential difference across resistor also decreases as the temperature of the thermistor decreases. It means that the thermistor should be connected at X. Here should be thermistor. So when this is done, the thermistor is attached at the X. Then if the temperature increases, the resistance of the thermistor decreases, and also the potential difference decreases because of the potential divider. R1 over R2 is equal to V1 over V2. So if the potential difference across the thermistor decreases, then on increasing the temperature, the potential difference across the resistor also increase. That is Y component. So at Y, there should be resistor. Now we see the option. At X, there is thermistor, and at Y, there is resistor. So only D option is correct. Question number 33. Which two logic gates each have a high output 1 when both of their inputs are low? Option A, AND OR gate. B, AND and NOR gate. C, NAND and NOR gate. D, NAND and OR gate. So basically when both of the inputs are low, the output is high. Here is 0, 0 and 1. Which one of the logic gate has this combination? This is true only for the NAND gate and NOR gate, because in the NOR gate, when we apply NOT gate over OR gate, we get NOR gate. In the OR gate, when both of the inputs are low, the output would be low. So when 0, 0, it changes into 0. And then we apply NOT over here, it changes into 1. So first of all, here is NOR gate, next is NAND gate. NAND gate is obtained when I apply NOT gate on AND gate. In the AND gate, when both of the inputs are low, the output should be low, and when any one of the input is high, the output again low. When both of the inputs are high, the output should be high. In our case, the inputs are 0, 0, output should be 0. When I apply NOT here, it changes into 1. So second would be NAND. So option C is correct. Question number 34. Two NAND gates are joined together as shown. There are two NAND gates. Two inputs, input 1 and input 2 is shown, and there is a single output. Which single logic gate is equivalent to this combination? So which one of the following logic gate is equivalent to this combination? We can check the different combinations of the input and see that which one of the following logic gate has the same truth table. First of all, here I consider the input 0 and 0. Then when there is NAND gate, it changes into 1. It means that here is 1 and also here is 1. When I apply again NAND gate here, it changes into 0. It means that input 1, input 2 and output. Here is 0, 0 and 0. Next combination is 0, 1. When I apply NAND gate, there would be 1. It means that here will be 1 and 1. No, both of the inputs are high. When I apply NAND gate, it changes into 0. So here will be 0, 1 gives 0. The last one combination is 1 and 1. Now I change the color here. The inputs are 1 and 1. When these inputs are joined by the NAND gate, here will be output 0. Now these 0 are the inputs of the next NAND gate. These changes into 1. So there would be 1, 1 gives 1. So this truth table is basically for the AND gate. So only option A is correct. Question number 35. Which components are designed to improve the safe working of the mains electrical supply? Circuit breaker, earth wire and fuse. All of these components needed in order for the safe working of the mains electrical supply. So only option D is correct, which shows that all of these are required. Question number 36. The diagram shows a current carrying wire placed between two magnetic poles. The current is in the direction shown. So the current in the wire is downward. What is the direction of the force on the wire? So basically the direction of current and the magnetic field is shown here. We have to find out the direction of the force on the wire. So I write here the direction of magnetic field is from north to south, which is towards left. And the direction of current is also vertical downward. I use here right hand rule. According to this rule, I have to curl the fingers of my right hand from the direction of current towards the direction of magnetic field. It would be like this. Then my thumb will show the direction of the force. In this case, the force will be towards the bottom of the page. So from here, option A is correct, which shows the direction of force towards the bottom of the page. Question number 37. The diagram 1 shows an AC generator. The coil is turning as shown. There is the AC generator and the coil is rotating, which is shown in the diagram 1. The diagram 2 shows the output voltage produced by the generator as the coil turns. Which point on the diagram 2 shows the voltage induced when the coil is moving through the position shown in the diagram 1? So first of all, we can see here the coil is rotating and it has complete half revolution. It means that, and also the coil is in vertical position. In the vertical position, the output voltage is 0. Because of the coil has completed half rotation, so this will be the point B, which shows the output voltage 0 and half rotation is complete here. So only B is correct. Question number 38. Which observation provides evidence for the nuclear atom? A. Attraction of opposite charges. B. Emission of gamma rays during the decay of radioactive nuclide. C. The scattering of the alpha particles by the thin metal foil. D. The scattering of gamma rays by a thin metal foil. This is basically the Rutherford scattering experiment. He uses the alpha particles. So there should be the scattering of alpha particles by the thin metal foil. Option C is correct. Question number 39. The chemical symbol for the uranium is U. The equation represents the radioactive decay of the uranium-235. Here is uranium and it decays into helium and TH. What are the numbers X and Y? Basically here we have to find out the value of X and Y. We see this is basically the alpha decay because here is alpha particle which is helium. First of all, we check the atomic number and atomic mass on both sides of this arrow. I write here atomic number. On the left hand side, atomic number is 92. It will be equal to Y plus 2. From here, Y will be equal to 92 minus 2, which is equal to 90. It means that Y is equal to 90. Next, we find out the value of X by comparing the mass number on both sides. So, mass number will be equal to, on the left hand side it is 235, will be equal to X plus 4. So, the value of X will be 235 minus 4, which is 231. So, X is equal to 231. From here, we see the options. Option A 231 94, B 231 90. So option B is correct. Question number 40. An experiment is done to measure the radiation from the radioactive source that has a half-life of 10 minutes. The source is placed close to the detector that is connected to the counter as shown. The average background rate is 20 counts per minute. At the start of the experiment, the count rate recorded by the counter is 1000 counts per minute. What is the count rate 10 minutes later? Half-life is given, which is 10 minutes, and we have to find out the count rate after 10 minutes. It means that one half-life pass. So initially the count rate is 1000 counts per second, and there is also the background count rate. So the count rate will be equal to 1000 minus 20, which is equal to 980 count per minute. When the one half-life pass, the count rate remains half. So after first half-life, or after 10 minutes, count rate will be equal to 980 divided by 2, which is equal to 490 count per minute. At the end, we also have to add the background count rate. So the total count rate will be equal to 490 plus 20, which is equal to 510 counts per minute. Now we see the options. Option A 490 counts per minute, B 500 counts per minute, C 510 counts per minute, D 530 counts per minute. So only option C is correct, 510 counts per minute.